Hello. So, sir, that
Yes.
order that you had for the corned beef and cabbage, are you sure you only wanted to do 5 orders?
Yeah, you know what? I will share.
It's kind of like, oh, when I would go to places and I would order, um, I love Italian food, so I would get just like a lot of food. I would get at least 2 entrees and a small salad. And then if
Diet
I pick it
Coke.
up, then somebody would be like, also, like, also the utensils, like, oh, so for 4 people, I'm like, oh no, just one set. Just like,
Two napkins.
honey napkin, you get bib. I mean, because I'm just gonna unhinge my jaw.
Oh my
Hi, Kimo
goodness.
Villarimo.
Hi, Kathy with a K.
How are you doing, kid?
I'm good. I didn't shave this morning. I feel kind of disheveled, but
Wait, you did not shave, or you
I
did shave?
this is the Filipino beard. It doesn't get much. No, I'm
Oh, in certain
there's much
circles, the
scruff.
Filipino beard would mean something else.
Yeah.
So how's it been? How's everything? How is Noah, your son, handling no golf time? Is it a relief,
Um,
or is it kind of he's kind of back into like the jonesing of it?
well, yeah, he wants to go back. We're gonna go. His swing coach is gonna open up next week, so we're gonna be going back to lessons to, shake off all the rust and that stuff. And so, um, in the meantime, swinging out in the yard and just trying to get some sunshine in that sense. Other than that, they're on their electronics most of the time. The distance learning thing, the distant
Mhm.
learning. So they have assignments, on a daily. So, which is good. And then, both of my kids, Mia as well.
Mhm.
She does her, thing, and obviously it's not graded, but you know, it is what it
Are you
is.
guys on like the fruit scale, whatever stickers you have available? Oh, that's great.
Oh, we get happy faces. No, it's
Yeah.
they do like WebEx. My daughter does WebEx like at least once a week, and then my son is doing a WebEx like right now. In fact, he's on WebEx. So, and they do it daily. There's
Is
that,
that
and I don't. Oh, I'm sorry.
no? You know me. I'm going to talk over you.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Completely.
so okay. So what I was about to say was um, that wonder if that's going to be like the norm going forward. As far as right now we're in this situation where they're not going to go back to school, but would that be some kind of supplement to you know their teachings later? I don't know.
How are how are you and Lisa, your wife? I was going to say Joy.
Oh, only she understands that.
Okay, thank you. Flash just dropped off some hand sanitizer and a mask.
Oh, how nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Flash.
So I'm at work in Evile,
Hmm.
and you are in an exotic location, not
Oh.
unlike La Mariana. Tell us where you're broadcasting from, Kimo.
I am in the Villarimo complex right now, and
Oh,
I'm actually on. Well, I'm not on. My phone is on the table, my dining room table, and these are blinds that cover up the outside, so it looks exotic, but really it isn't truly. That was way too long. Sorry.
no, that's good. You and Lisa, though, your wife,
Yes.
and I say Joy because it's an inside joke because I know her name is Lisa. I remember working with you in Kailua at a radio station when you guys were dating. You guys weren't even engaged back in the
That's
day.
right. Yeah.
How long
Wow.
Kim and I have known each other. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. And
Uh-oh.
But how are the two of you like the discussions as far as for school for the kids? Is that better? Is like, do you feel safer that they're going to be home doing the remote learning, or is it like we need to find something in the community where everybody, like the Hawaii Convention Center, for example, like they clear everything out and
Right,
where
right.
people can just go,
Yeah. Well, oh, first of all, before I answer that, I just see my cousin Paul. He just jumped on. So hi, Paul.
Oh,
He's from Maui. He's on Maui right now. Anyway, as
wait,
far
up
as
country.
no, already Kahului. So, but as far as that's concerned, as far as the distance learning, we're grateful that they actually have access because I'm sure there's a handful of kids who can't, and I feel bad that they're not going to be able to finish their year off, in school. Mia had uh, um, a field trip to Polynesian Cultural Center. She's all bummed out that she can't go,
Oh,
and only the fourth graders get to go, right? She won't be able to do that next year. There's no makeup to the Polynesian Cultural Center.
that's
So
a
I
rite
said,
of passage in Hawaii, going to
for growing up,
Polynesian
right?
Cultural
Right.
Center. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I told her when all this is kind of, better, then we'll do a little family thing and we'll do our, a field trip out there. It's been years since I've been out there. So, sure, let's make a day of it. But stuff like that, and I feel bad for the graduates 2020. Oh my gosh, not going to be able to actually do the, talk about rite of passage, won't be able to walk, do their graduation ceremony. So, hearts out to them.
I want to talk about Maui now.
Oh,
Anytime somebody talks about Maui, I automatic think
hmm.
of upcountry. There's the Makawa Bakery, Komoda Bakery.
Komodo Bakery, yeah, cream puffs.
And it's just
Oh,
because like the simple donuts on a stick, the donut holes. I'm a simple
you're a
woman.
simple person, yeah. Okay, well, no, note to
So
self.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like it's goody goody for me. It's always goody goody. There's like three
That
stops.
was closed.
Yeah, geez, thanks. Rain on my parade. No, so there's three things that you need to do when you go to. Well, for me anyway, right?
Hmm.
You go to Sam Sato to get the dry salmon,
Oh
then
wait,
the manju. Write that down. Sam Sato.
no,
Yeah.
because I go Tasty Crust. That's part of my
Oh yeah,
see
just
Sam Sato and
hmm.
versus Tasty Crust.
Well, there's
Or
not.
is it even, can you do that?
I don't know if you want to pit them against each other because it's like
It's
apples and
not picking.
oranges.
It's
It's
this
apples
is
and oranges.
not
I think you should just add that to your repertoire.
okay. Sam Salton,
Yeah,
question mark. Okay.
and then,
And
but
then the goody goody.
uh, goody goody, of course. Maui Mall, Tasaka goody goody, and
Mm-hmm.
then usually, just go down to Azeka's or something out in Kihei.
Wait,
I'm
they're
just
not
saying.
open anymore, huh?
Well, they've got this as you know the shopping area,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Azeka shopping area. But I remember, oh gosh, now you're giving me a flashback here. I remember growing up, every summer I used to be, on Maui,
Mm.
and my aunt, my uncle used to live in Kihei, and so my uncle would pick me up from my other auntie's house in Kahului, and we would drive back to Kihei, and we would stop at Azeka store because he got to go get the mail, and behind there was monkeys, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, there was a. I remember going back there. Monkeys. Who would have thought? Monkeys. Anyway, I
no, I
digress.
remember that too. Yeah, Azeka's. I remember going camping one time and stopping at Azeka's. We had to get like a container of the already marinated ribs because my
Mm.
boyfriend was going kind of grill them out on the beach, kind of. So, but I remember that, and that was the first time. I think that was the first time I had Azeka. But he was just like, "How could you not have?" I'm like, "Because I was up, Lahaina. It's like I wasn't getting off campus. I didn't learn how to
Right,
drive
right.
until a long time later. Yeah.
A long time. Yeah, because you are originally from Maui, right?
No, I'm from here.
No,
I just went to
no,
school
but
there. Yeah, I
oh,
was
you
like
went to
witness
school
protection
there.
over there.
Okay. All
No, I
right,
went.
Kim.
I went. I was born and raised on Oahu, but then I went to Lahaina Luna. I was a boarder, and then I came back
Oh,
here, and then I went back Maui for a little bit, and then I came back here. So I feel like I'm in witness protection as a grown up now.
oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're protected.
Maui.
Uh,
Wait, so do you and your family still go to Maui still, like with that kind of
not as
frequency?
not as often as we'd like to, because grandma, she was there. Grandma and grandpa used to live in Kihei. They've since
Mm.
passed, so we've gone, and then my mom is from Maui, so my cousin Paul, who lives along with his my other cousin Cheryl, Robin. I'm just kind of name dropping here. Anyway, they would
Not,
always.
you're not truly
uh,
name dropping unless you give the last name.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll should I keep them anonymous?
I know it's like porcupine.
Yeah. Anyway, so we go there, go to my Auntie Jane's house, and like basically it's a second home. I've been going to Maui since I was 3 years old, and like every summer. So
Oh.
that's like a second home for me.
Do you have
But yeah,
siblings?
we don't. Whom? Just an evil twin that looks exactly like this guy. Other
Not.
than that, it's just me. Yeah.
Wait, wait. I don't. I know sometimes you make these things called jokes. Like that's adorable. Now, wait. Are you only child?
I am the only sibling. I'm my only sibling. Yes.
Actually, when did radio become part of your consciousness?
When did radio? Oh, geez. It was probably in high school. My dad wanted me to be a computer programmer, and
Was that a thing back
um,
then?
well, he knew he had foresight, I guess. So, he wanted me to get into computers.
Mm.
Back when the TRS-80 Radio Shack was big. Anyway, um, so so I actually, I excelled in music, and so I wanted to be a musician, and my dream was to go to Juilliard's, and that was just way too expensive, and
Mm.
so the other thought in my head was, okay, so you reach the pinnacle if you get your songs played on the radio, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
so I kind of flipped that around and said, wouldn't it be great for me to play the songs that are on the radio? And that's how I kind of, had that epiphany. Boom, let's try this avenue.
Mm.
And, I like to talk, obvious. So why not get paid for it? As minimal as possible, and get into radio.
Because I want to understand that I'm really learning the craft. So I'll just do it for free. I'll just
Right.
intern as long as I can.
Because I like getting T-shirts from the radio station that
Oh
says
gosh.
it has call letters. Yeah, no. So that's where I was, and it just really what kind of tipped the scales and got the ball rolling is I was involved in Brown Bags of Stardom.
Oh, give a time
Um,
frame for that or the decade for that.
oh, geez, that would be in the 80s, in the
1980. Okay.
the late 1900s. Anyway, it was we had won for our school in '81. That was the first year that Brown Bags of Stardom, you know, um,
Wow.
and so had a stage band, and the stage band won, and then the next year came, and I had like a foursome. It was guitar, uh, ukulele, and bass, and another ukulele. So we played Hawaiian music, and so we won for Mililani High School. Hey, go Trojans! Anyway, they were using kids they were featuring us from all different high schools to do like concert series around to different high schools and stuff, to do goodwill work, if you will. And so Susan Kunimura, who used to be promotions over at KIKI AM 83 and the Davies Pacific Center, we'd always be there because she'd say, "Hey, we got something, you want to come down and you want to help out and be part of this Goodwill program. And so that's how I got my feet in the door to radio. That kind of sparked my interest and stuff like that.
So
And
Brown
then
Bags to Stardom, it was it an outside of the Department of Education sort of event or organization?
not even. I don't know. I to tell you the truth, I think it was the brainchild of Kamasami Kong, Tony Taylor. Those were the two driving forces back in the day, and that kind of got me wanting to start a career in radio. I will say my first real thing in the studio was when there was Victoria Station. I don't know if you remember this. Victoria Station used to be by Ala Moana, and that's where KSSK, or K59 back in the day, that's where their studio was, in that little compartment there. And I went to go one day to watch Michael do a show. And
Michael W. Perry?
Michael W. Perry, yes, all those many years ago. And it was just, I left that place wide-eyed going, OMG, I totally want to get into this.
What was that like? Because then in the 1970s and 1980s, listening to the radio, like growing up in Hawaii, I remember we only listened to one station because it was pretty much, it was a dominating AM station, and it was, at least for, I think, our generation, because we're very close in age, very close, within 15 years. I mean, we're
oh, that's funny.
now
There's
kind of, yeah.
K59,
Like, our
right?
birthdays are a day apart. How's that feel?
Yeah, by a couple months.
A day and 15 years, But I remember the way I would think about radio. So AM was just a dominant thing, and through the 1970s, 1980s, and it wasn't until maybe the early to mid 1980s where FM began to kind of, it was like the cool thing to be attached to or to be listening. And I think it was the album-oriented rock stations and hotter pop. And then
well,
later,
it was stereo, right?
Yeah. And then it was like it was a different kind of radio personalities that were cropping up in the later 1980s, and that's a whole other thing. Though with Michael W. Perry, what was that like when you saw him? Because even then, we kind of knew what people looked like. It seems like we were more aware of what they looked like then than what what people are like now. Which is funny because we have all the social media, but people are still confused. It's like, oh, so you're her.
No, I mean, for Michael was bigger than life. It was just like, just to be in that same, even though he was on the other side of the glass, I was like, that's Michael W. Perry. And then beyond that was the newsroom. And then Linda Coble was there. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was just a humongous experience for me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is something that I want to do. And that got the ball rolling there. So.
Away from
hi, Alyssa. Hi, Tyler. I'm just watching guys kind of, jumping on feed here.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for, because I don't get to see Kimo ever.
Ever? Well, not anymore.
Well, especially since I got rid of my golf clubs. I mean, okay. But
how dare you?
Your musical instrument of choice, we're talking about, you saw a live radio show. You were so enamored with it. And then as you got older, you continued to pursue music, and just that little seedling of, I can make music, it'll be on the radio. But that's different from actually being a radio announcer or a radio DJ. When did you get a little bit closer to that, realizing that?
Well, like I said, we, through Brown Bags of Stardom, we got to hang out in the radio station more often. And so I remember one day or one night my group and I, we actually opened up for Booga Booga.
What were you guys called?
Island Currents. Uh, anyway, yeah, we had a really big one hit. Not well, it's not really a hit. It's anyway. Um, we opened up for Booga Booga at the Ocean Showroom one night, and Frank Shaner. We all love Frank Shaner.
Frank B.
He
Shaner.
was Frank B. Shaner. And to this day, I don't know what B means. Anyway, Frank
Because
Shaner. So he was the MC that night because it was a station kind of thing. And so, we opened the show, and then backstage in the green room, I asked Frank, hey, Frank, I really want to try and pursue a career in radio. And I was thinking of going to Columbia School of Broadcasting. Remember that? And then he gave me this look like, are you out of your mind? He said, save your money, get a real education. If you still have that burning, then you go from there. And so that was the best piece of advice, and it kind of burned in my head. Then I think it was like the next summer, I moved to California with my bass player, Jason, and we were just going to be there, going to do gigs for the summer. His brother had a band, and so we just kind of joined up, and we're going to play music. And I kind of enjoyed being there. And so I told my mom, I think I'm going to stay a little bit longer. And she says, if you're going to stay, you're going to go to school.
right.
And so I enrolled in, school, got into Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton, and then got into the radio program there. And as they say, the rest is history. I've never been the same since. Yeah, it was probably the best advice that anybody ever gave me in this career is to, you said have a backup plan, man. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so, thank you, Frank Shaner.
Frank B. Shaner. He
Frank
earned
B.
that.
Shaner. Yes, he earned that B.
So when you graduated from school, then when did you return back to Hawaii, and what was your first broadcasting gig in the islands?
Okay, so college radio, blah blah blah. One of the assignments was to go out and get a real gig in town, and I used to, Fullerton is next to Anaheim, and so there was a feeder station that would, ask for college help because it's free, right, basically. And so there was this one station called KEZY, which was on Ball Road, maybe 2-3 minutes away from Disneyland. And I ended up doing overnights board op there. And
So
back
exciting.
then, yeah, their automation system consisted of 8 different reel-to-reel open reels that would have to be changed when it actually ended. I would have to rewind the whole thing and start it over, but it was, it was synced. And so you could never fall asleep in the overnights. You'd have to constantly be on that thing. Anyway, so that was like my first real radio gig. I wasn't on the air. I was just on college radio. And then I remember one of the finals for this radio program was to get a on-air job. And so I ended up getting an on-air gig at this tiny radio station in Ojai, KMX 106, which is now considered, well, it's defunct. It's no longer. But they used to play urban radio, and it would feed into LA. So they would radio and records, which is, one of the trade industries. We don't use it anymore, but those were the to get radio play, records to get radio play, they used the trades, which was that. So they would record people would come to us to break records so because we fed into LA. And so, Paula Abdul, I remember breaking Paula Abdul, let's see, Surface, Ready for the World, Taylor Dane, all those, because we were just a small little station. They were just wanting more people to add their music, right? So anyway, that was really good, cutting my teeth to actually have, get on the air and stuff like that. And then down the road here, that station kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just doing like part-time work at like a Quiet Storm. I remember doing Quiet Storm at this station in Ventura. And then I used to have a video countdown show. It's called the Gold Coast Video Countdown Show because I was actually the music director at this urban station that I was at, and so we had this weekend guy. His name was Jim Fox, and
Mm-hmm.
he actually had like video equipment, and he was kind of that was his gig before he did radio part time. Anyway, so he said, "Hey, I've got a concept. Let's do a video countdown show." MTV was in its prime back then, and but it make it local. And so I remember going out, and he said, "You're going to be the face of this thing." And okay, if you say so. So he put me on camera. We did a series of video countdown shows. It bled into LA, and Santa Barbara, all surrounding counties, and we get a call from a casting director that they're interested in using this, believe it or not, for this series. Um, and they were wanting me to read for the series.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say the series? Anyway, let's just put it this way. That series featured Johnny Depp. And I think it was, who was it? Oh, who else was it? He was the big star. Anyway.
So you auditioned? You auditioned for 21 Jump Street?
What did I say that? No. What I was going to do is I was going to do a screen test because I had no agent. I had no idea. And so I said, I'm getting all excited. This is great. And then, we're going to fly you here so you can do the screen test, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 days before my departure, get a call back and say, hey, the writers, this character that we thought you would be good for is just not going to work out. It's, so we're going to have to write that character out. I had actually packed up my stuff because I was all ready to go,
Yeah.
and do this because this is going to be my next big adventure.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out. And so I said, okay, that must be a calling to come back home. And
Mm-hmm.
so I remember it was July 5th, let's see, 1989. I decided I caught a American Airlines plane back home. It was a sad day, but it was exciting because it was a new beginning. Be back home, and then I remember as soon as I got home, I think the next day, I called, of all people, Kimo Villarimo.
Wait, did you already know Kimo?
No, not face to face. It wasn't a face to face, but I just kind of reached out to him. Say, hey, I've been involved in radio. I had come in with my my resume in hand, blah blah. Hey, looking for a gig. I just fresh off the boat from California.
Yeah.
Servicing a bigger market, and try to glam myself up. And he said, well, you got nothing here, but if you give Alan Oda a call, maybe he might have something for you. And that was I-94, and they were over at the Media 5 Plaza on Queen Street.
Mm-hmm.
And so later, I think it was the very next week, they said, we need a news director. So I said, well, okay, whatever it takes, right? So I jumped in, and then from the news director position, I got into was with the morning slot, which was who was it? Mike Powell, and then I forget who else. Steve, who was it? Steve. He was over at KSSK for I bet, and two as well. So
It wasn't me, so I don't. I'll feel, bra. I'll feel.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was like my first gig back home. Was over at I-94, hot I-94.
Ah. How long were you the news director before they discovered or you revealed that you were more than rip and read, a serious kind of voice?
Well, I don't know how long it was, but everything morphed in. Hey, we need you to do this, so we need to do overnights. Okay, do overnights, and then hey, can you do this? Oh, okay. Can you do weekends? Yeah, okay, we'll be able to do weekends, and it just kind of rolled. The ball kept rolling, 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 and that's when Jimmy, a young Jimmy the Geek, Lanai,
Doug.
Doug Geek, yeah, and then Lanai, Alan Oda, what was it, Doug Lee, we all were rolling together, all of us.
Was Richie
And
Aki
then
already there?
no,
Not
no,
yet.
no, it was Lee Coleman was the GM back then,
Hmm.
and you know, your engineer Jerry was there all
Hmm.
those many years ago. Jerry was the chief engineer back there. And then from there, I moved house down to FM 100. I got to speaking with Skylark, and she said, yeah, we'd like to have you aboard. You bring a different edge. You've done big market radio, and so I'm sure we could find a space for you. And that was really a good calling because I felt, I found it felt really good because all these years prior, I playing Hawaiian music, and it just kind of felt like the thing to do, and so I jumped aboard, and was fortunate enough to be involved in all of that groundwork
Hmm.
that FM 100 did back in the day, and then from there I leaped over to this other radio station that's they're doing okay. It was we brought that on, which was uh, 105. I don't know if you heard of that, KINE. And we moved from, uh, let's see, the studios was on Bishop. I think we talked
Hmm.
about this before. And then we moved to Kailua. And
Hmm.
that's when our roads crossed again. Kathy with a
Hmm.
K was in Kailua. Well, KINE used to be in Kailua, and then they got bought up. BJ Glasscock, bought up 105. And
Hmm.
so I was out of a gig. And then Austin Valley, being that we were in his house at that point, he said he knew I was out of a gig, and so he was kind enough to say, "Hey, it'd be great if you'd come on and do overnights. We got
Hmm.
something overnight." And so jumped in overnights, got a gig, looking for a gig. So at that point, took the overnights, and then things started to open up. Brock Whaley was doing mornings, and
Hmm.
so I became Brock Whaley's producer. Uh, and
Would
then,
you? I wanted to find out more about your time with the Hawaiian music format and speaking more about Honolulu Skylark, Ms.
yes.
Rossetti, who's
Hmm.
from Hawaii Island. And I remember there were female talents on the radio. Sometimes, or sometimes I don't want to say traditionally because now in 2020, whatever is traditional, there's no real thing. Everything is just kind of fluidly whatever your position is. That's what it is. And
Right.
but I remember that she would be flying solo, and there were not a lot of women who would be that well known as just them. It's usually a partnered with someone, or someone's doing
Right.
a new format, or a supporting player. Whereas she really did establish herself as an independent voice of sorts, or like a
Well,
kind of almost an autonomous figure within the broadcasting industry, which was really very nice.
Well, she along with Crash, and because it started at 14:20 a.m.
Yes.
And so she was in there already, and
Hmm.
she was a true visionary in that sense, where she said that was AM,
Hmm.
14:20 a.m. And then the opportunity to turn that to an FM signal was huge.
Were you
Nobody
there
heard
during that
Hawaiian.
time?
I was, I just missed the turnover.
Yeah.
So she brought me in once she got the groundwork laid in that sense, and she was just layering on different elements. And I was fortunate enough, that she pulled me in,
Hmm.
um, to, further that. And, she was, like I said, she's a, visionary, to know that this was the next step. This was, a positive motion
Hmm.
for Hawaiian music. Because nobody listened to Hawaiian music in stereo on the radio. That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
It was 14:20 a.m. That's the transistor radio that grandma used to listen to while she was in the yard.
Hmm.
And now, you can listen to it in stereo in your car while you're driving. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was
Yeah.
that was really big.
What was it? What do you remember as far as the people who populated the morning, the midday, and the afternoon, and at night? Be, it's because I think some people might not have understood that, it's not just music, but it's just like if it's a rock format or a jazz format or news, there's different day parts and different personalities who are there, and there's music in between. But just because the musical format is as such, it shouldn't make it any less or different from other stations, you know. Like some
Right,
people,
right.
um,
Well,
because
we had Kimo Kahuana was on the air, Brico Delateria. And you see these figures now, to think, it was a dream to be working with these guys, right? I mean, they're the big guys. They're the guys on the, and then down the hallway, James Grant Benton was, on 1420, and Kelmiki Akui, and you got all these other humongous people in local radio, and then there was Billy, Bill Van Osdol, Randy Hudnall took over at nights. I
Mhm.
used to be on at nights. I was on middays. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time in radio,
It's
really.
been really
Uh,
exciting because there was like from AM, like the traditional, like there's a line of demarcation of like the Sons of Hawaii, it's like the Sunday Manoa, but then you have these groups that are traditional, but they had another kind of energy, like the Makaha Sons of Ni'ihau.
yeah, yeah,
That they
yeah,
were doing traditional music, but it was just a little like for a newer generation. So that must have been
yeah,
interesting with the Kalapana. It's like, do we play English language on the station or not? It's like,
yeah. Well, it was very interesting in the sense where, like, the Hawaiian jams were,
yeah,
it started to morph into that, and that became what we now know as island music.
yeah.
They had this, reggae overtones, and so, there's a hullabaloo when that movement first
I'm
started.
getting
You know,
chicken skin because I remember the kind of counterpart with musical formats in the 1980s, 1990s when rap music, like when it started kind of proliferating pop stations, it was like,
mhm.
do we play this and how much do we play it?
Right,
Because
right.
it's popular because we're getting all this information of what's selling and where, how it's performing in other markets and people are requesting it, but does it make sense? And like that
Right. It was
whole,
still kind of undergroundish almost,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been, it was like a real challenge because of the different eras of programmers and people who are on the air where what they knew to be true. And then, each subsequent generation. I think you and that I would love to have like a panel of like that certain era of people who were coming up in radio in Hawaii, because like with the Hawaiian music, and then because you have bands like Pepper, for example, that
Mhm.
were influenced by rock, and they were listening to Gabby, And,
Right.
you can hear that influence in their modern music, but could you play it on this format, or whatever
Right.
kind of
Right.
format? Yeah. But,
Well,
yeah,
it was interesting because, Sky had, she was, I think she had vision in the sense where she knew she was a traditionalist,
yeah.
you know, uh, Hawaiian language music,
Mm,
uh, traditional Hawaiian music. She, that was in her bones. But she had enough uh, vision to know that it couldn't just stay that way. It
yeah.
needed to expand, uh, and to be able to embrace artists from Hawaii,
Yeah.
and because Hawaii Kane was coming on, Kapena,
Yeah. It was, yeah.
all those things were starting to take hold, and it wasn't, it was definitely a movement, and then you got all these polished bands like the Hawaiian style band, Brian Kessler, Wade Camburn, Dave Tusserone, who produced that, and it's Roby Kakalau, Uncle Willie K. Uncle Willie K could do both. He could rock out.
Mhm.
He could traditional Hawaiian, and it was just
Raw. You
amazing.
remember, see,
Bruh,
raw. It's like
bruh.
being at this age and like remembering, um, working at stations where the image would really impact whether it could be considered for airplay. It could sound a certain way, but if it didn't match, it's just like when you were doing your music videos, right? I'm sure when you were doing that program, um,
Hmm.
just giving information about them and yeah, it's image and the quality, and I don't know. I see, now that's another show altogether. Getting into the
Right.
discussion
Yeah.
of that, because there's so many artists that um, they're successful outside of radio, and because not everything is meant for radio. But I think that's even that is like thank goodness for other streaming platforms. It's like we're all working
Right.
together. We all want all the music. We want all the artists, everybody to be getting their royalties and getting their music out there. And
Well,
it's
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, because now anybody can have a studio in their garage,
mm,
and that doesn't mean that it's going to be of quality.
mm.
Because there's some stuff out there that's questionable. I'm not, and
There's
that's
an
a mild
audience.
way of putting
There's
it.
an audience for everything.
Yeah, I'm sure aunties and uncles were gonna love that stuff. But I'm just saying, like, to uphold a broadcast standard,
Yes.
it has to have a quality that we would understand
Hmm.
before we'd be able to pass it on to the general public.
Yeah.
We don't want just clutter, and because there's, like I said, there's some stuff that is incredibly good as well as incredibly bad. We've all heard it,
You know what? I used
and
to have this thing about that. There's some artists and songs that I think are too good for radio. It's like I'm like super like selfish and greedy, where it's like and I don't know why. Maybe it's that record store mentality where it's like this secret. It's like nobody deserves to hear this band. It's just like it's so good. It's gonna get like commercialism will ruin it. But that's just like youth
yeah,
talking. Where any kind of commercial success could ruin the artistry or something. And then you get older, and it's like that's what you want. You want them to be able to be broadly heard, so they can sustain themselves in that fashion.
right. That's the
So
ultimate
yeah,
goal, right? I mean, they put all their efforts into it, and you become a piece in the cog for them, right?
yeah,
Cog in the wheel for them, and so um, yeah, it has become so sophisticated, these days,
yeah.
with all these different platforms. But grassroots stuff like the old school, like us, the pre-digital age, we understand. I think it's a little bit more. Um, we are a little bit more aware of quality in that sense. Not to say that the new generation, they've got the technology to create that quality, but we understand organic quality better than most, I think,
Hmm.
in that sense. Well, was that too deep? I'm sorry.
It's easier or more comfortable for me to talk about the dynamics and kind of like the science of radio with somebody who is working or is familiar with the broadcasting, especially in the islands. It's such a neat little microcosm, you know, because we get all these different kind of influences, not just from the mainland, but you know, from Asia and you know, just everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, you know, like I think we have so much amazingly world-class talent that, I mean, Fiji just blew me away the first time I saw Fiji. Oh my gosh, I was like, you know, it was, I think it was K-Day
Mm.
Fest out there at
Yeah,
MC, Kyle Crater Boys, you know, Troy and Ernie. I know they were on the bill, but Fiji came out, and my nickname for Fiji back then was Sinbad because he looked like Sinbad. He had the
yeah,
haircut and the whole.
yeah.
Anyway, I was just blown away. I'm like, who is this kid? This is amazing, you know. And as his work progressed, I'm like, dude, you need to be in a studio somewhere else other than
Mm.
here. You need to be on a label at this point, you know. And that's the same way I feel with today's Josh Totofi. He
Oh my
should be on a
goodness.
label.
Well,
He should be on a label.
well, I mean, I think to expand on that, like to be with on a label in the sense where somebody can handle proper distribution to make sure that you get paid. That in that sense. So it's just like having.
Right.
So when we say like being on a label, it means that everything you're being taken care of. People are looking out for your best interests, and you know, getting you bookings and all that sort of thing. But
Right.
the monetary, it's all not. It's all about. It's in addition to the monetary compensation. I think that's critical.
Because you get the bigger corporation support in that sense where, you know, you're going to get the marketing value to that, so you can go and be exposed to, you know, places that you normally wouldn't. And I think, you know, he's got that, you know. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a heavenly voice. Holy smokes. I'm
yeah,
just blown away
and
every
I'm
time I
sure.
watch him.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's getting to a point where we just say, "Have you? Hey, where'd you go? Did I lose you? I think I lost your audio again. I'm gonna I'm gonna porcupine you, and then you're gonna come back. Okay." I think that's really good. We having that much fun. But when he was talking about Fiji, I think the cat that was for me that I just blew me away the first time I heard him live was Willie K. I mean, hearing him on record was one thing, but hearing Willie K in a live space was just like, what is going on? That's just, it was incredible. He's such an entertainer, performer, Willie K. Yeah.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
But when you
I
talk about Fiji, I was
remember.
just like, yeah, Willie, for me, it was like in recent memory kind of thing. And then there's like other artists. There's like Raitea Helm that where I don't know where she gets that certain something. I really like Milani. See, and if you start on
Yes.
a
Oh,
row of
well.
artists, then it's just like, oh, it's like I don't want to leave out anybody, but it's just kind of off the top of my head, you know, that it's just.
Yeah.
I still, you know, who I really love Naleo. I crazy fan over Naleo Pilimehana. I do wish I had a chance to speak with Honolulu Skylark. How many years were you working with her when you were at that station?
Oh, geez. Um, at the station, I'm gonna say maybe about 2, 3 years, and then the friendship just, you know, continued on because, you know, we just had so much in common, and she taught me so much.
What was
Um,
she like? What was she? Well, how do or actually like how do you remember her as? Because she was a general manager, wasn't she? She was a station owner, general manager, programmer, or um,
As
I just
far as
knew her as Ms. Rossetti. That's all I knew. Yeah, I never met her, so you know.
no,
I,
she's if you had, how can I explain? She is um just aloha. I mean, she's so
Mhm.
warm. You know, she has one thing that really that stands out in my head. One experience is the first birthday bash at the Waikiki Shell.
Mm,
Okay, and we sold out. That's the first time the Shell had sold out in a long time.
yeah.
You know, it was over the fence and everything, and people were starting to get rowdy. Hey, you know, and so she went out on stage and she told everybody to calm down, and they did. That's what she was about. She could
Mhm.
command it, and you would have to submit to it because it was Skylar.
Yeah.
That was her. You know, if
She earned it too.
just yeah, just out of straight obedience, you would have to because she commanded it.
Mhm.
Not in a bad way. I mean, in the most warm, loving,
Mhm.
filled with aloha way. You know, she told him, "Calm down, or we're going to pull the plug on this thing." You know, not berating, not finger wagging, but she, you know, gently said, "Please calm down,
Mhm.
so we can continue what we started here.
Mhm.
And if you want to continue to have events like this, then this is how we need to proceed." And they did. Can you
Mm.
imagine that? A packed house at the Waikiki Shell, collectively, just all kind of saying,
Imagine
"Okay,
my
we
Thai
get it."
ball times all kind, any
Oh
kind.
man, yeah, that's so
That's
funny. But that's,
wild.
you know, that's a very I'm glad I got to witness that
Mm.
because that spoke volumes to me. She did, you know, I mean, the what she carried, you know, as a person, as a being, was right there for everyone to see. This is what she's about, you know, and I'm glad I got to see that and to work, you know, shoulder to shoulder with her, and you know, have this friendship, you know, years and years later. Um, uh, yeah, I just feel blessed that you know, we were part of each other's lives.
When
So.
you were at that station, what were your kind of standout memories when it comes to like maybe artists dropping by? You know,
Geesh. Um, Willie, we used to have like, I know we took hold of Willie's first album. That's the one with
Mr. Willie K.
where he's all yes, Willie K. William Kahele. He had shaven his face. I don't know if you remember that cover of that CD. And I was like, you know, when he came back, he was all bearded out. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
bro, what's up with this picture? And so, you know, he he's he's cracking up. Is you know that was on suggested to you know from somebody else to go do
yeah.
that. So we you know, uh, and it was funny because we kind of broke down the CD, and he was telling me about this one song. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called Yuku Wipo. It's kind of a song. It's a good song. You know how he came upon that, and I'm hoping I get the name right. It's Albert or Delbert Belmudez. He had written a poem,
Hmm.
and Willie put music to a poem, and you know cleaned it up, fixed it up, and he and Ukuipo was what came out of that, and that you know that was a really special thing that I remember you know him sharing uh, that song. Geez, from the first three notes, you know exactly what you're going to get from that song, and I just love it. That's amazing. You know,
I never read the
so
liner notes on that. I mean, most times with when it came to compact discs already, I
mhm.
didn't read like who engineered it and lyrics and all that kind of stuff. I kind of reserved that when I would be checking out my vinyl, my records and things like that. Were you or are
Yeah.
you still a music collector?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I'm going to say I have lost touch a little bit with currents,
Oh,
uh, you know, but you know, you never lose that ear for
mm,
what, you know, because yeah, for me, that's the first thing I used to do is when you get a new, you know, piece of um, music is
mm,
you look who are the cats playing on it, who was it produced by, you know, and then you have your expectations before you put the needle down, right? And say,
yeah,
okay, I'm expecting this. This
yeah.
was this was produced by, you know, Kenny Babyface Edmonds. Okay, I've now the bar has been raised. I know
Yeah.
what to expect, or I should expect, and then you know it usually delivers. But yeah, now there's so much out there, you know, just I mean, so much. It's hard to keep track of what's, you know, uh, just and like I said, it's so hard to keep track,
Yeah.
and
Whatever
the
rises to
tastes
the
have
top.
changed, right? Yeah, you know, my kids, you know, I remember when Uptown Road came on, right? And I'm like, what in the world is this?
I
You
know
know,
that song. I know that song. That's that Lil Nas X one, yeah.
yeah, you know, and the kids love that song.
There's a lot of grown-ups who like that song too.
But they gravitate. But then again, you know, I mean, just the same way as Gundam Style. Like, what in the world
Oh, that one I love.
is?
I love the music video though. That was different. It
Yeah,
was the music
yeah,
video
yeah.
that I
Okay,
really
I
liked.
will. I will
Yeah.
have to say, you know that, and then now my niece, she's totally into BTS. Like, what?
Oh my God, I
You know,
love
I
them
mean,
too.
you know, so maybe maybe I'm showing my age with that, but
No,
you know, I'm
and
like,
I think it's just it's cute. It's like certain things. Again, it's with the being in the right space where it hits the eardrum and just all the senses at the right in the right way.
yeah.
Like Billie Eilish. Like I really like her.
See, for me, I'm like, I'm listening with my eyes, so it has.
Why is she
You know what I'm
bleeding from
saying?
her eyeballs? I don't
You know,
like
I
that.
just like. So when I see her, I'm like, okay, I don't. My expectations are different.
Yeah.
Like Adele,
Oh yeah.
totally love Adele. You know, she warrants everything that all the accolades. Pink, I love Pink. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, you know. I'm just trying to think who else, so I don't sound super dupes old. Uh, um,
What do you think of
no,
Harry
I mean, you know, the
Styles?
Harry Styles, palatable, quite palatable.
Jonas Brothers.
Um, eh,
They're
mm,
really pop. I mean,
um,
they're really hooky. I really I like them. Yeah.
they're popular. Yeah, yeah. You know, like Room Five. You know,
Mm. And I was just like, my heart. It was just something just magical.
yeah, well, I was lucky that I actually cut my teeth musically with the Renaissance, Hawaiian Renaissance music. So Hui Ohana,
Hmm.
you know, the Sunday Manoa, those are the mainstays. They were always on the spindle playing, you know. And so that Guava Jam album, I grew up both sides, you know, the crack seed, you know, and so when in my ukulele playing,
Mm.
I I would try and emulate what Peter Moon was doing, you know. It took many years of ukulele lessons with Roy Sakuma. I love him like a dad.
This last year's the kind.
Oh yeah, I was so sad that 50th year they had to cancel, you know. But yeah, if it wasn't for Roy, I'd who knows what I'd be. Roy was like a second dad to me. I loved him.
Aw.
And Kathy, you know, I remember when they first started dating, you
Hmm.
know, and I do remember being part of the ukulele festival when it was only single digits. Anyway, uh, but as far as music case, you know, that was where I really gravitated. That meant a whole lot to me.
Mm.
Like I said, you know, my dad had um, Peter Fontaine, clarinet player, Lionel Hampton, who played the vibes, Engelbert, and all that stuff. And so I had a whole lot of things that I was listening to. You know,
Did you like listening to it or you just became accustomed to it?
I didn't. You know, that's a really good. question because I don't know if I understood what that quality meant like I do today. All I know is that being exposed to it
Hmm.
shaped my musical ear for what it is. I have a greater appreciation of big band music now. I love big band music.
Hmm.
I just think it's amazing. And then stuff like Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's a staple. That the Phoenix Horns, Sea Wind, Jerry Hay. I like that. I was in band, and so I understand that ensemble style,
Hmm.
the precision that takes, and uh, yeah, I don't know. Country music, and I'm starting to get into country music.
Either you're raised up on it and you appreciate it. This is just my opinion, or you get older and you have life experience. So when you hear certain songs within the country western genre, it's nice to be able to kind of take a pause where it's like 3 to 4 minutes of describing the gravel on the road and the wind and the chimes, and the
Right.
dog looks forlorn because my baby left me today.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much the storytelling, it's the melodies,
Mm.
and it's very. And somebody told me this years ago that um, country music is Hawaiian music with a twang,
Hmm.
which truly it is. I mean, the same chord progressions,
Hmm.
the same stylings. You could play a slack key on a country music on a country song. And so, instrumentation is very much the same. They've got the mandolin, we've got the ukulele. They play steel guitar, obviously, Hawaiian music got steel guitar. And so it parallels. And it's just as of late, I've been kind of listening, my ear has been a little bit open to what's going on country music wise. So.